an American. Like, people get pretty obsessed with this idea of like, do you still consider yourself a Republican or are you a Democrat? And I'm like, I really love American liberal democracy. I think it's really important. I'd like to defend it. And I'm kind of going to line up with anybody else who's willing to do that.
Sarah Craig has a question for you. She says, I admire the work that you've been doing at the Bulwark, but why do you think your efforts have not had greater success in convincing Republicans? You may want to challenge that premise, but go ahead.
Well, I'll challenge the premise in this way. One is, I think that over the last decade now, because Trump's been with us for about a decade, there have been a ton of Mitt Romney, John McCain voters who have politically realigned into the Democratic Party. And they have traded. I've talked about this political realignment a lot. I'm sure you know lots of these people. It's why Trump doesn't do as well in the suburbs, but he puts up Saddam Hussein level numbers out in more rural communities. But he is also doing better with Black voters, Hispanic voters. A lot of those voters who now vote for Trump, there's like a few different key elements about them. One is many of them were not in the political system before at all. Like, they are Trump only voters. So one of the reasons that Donald Trump won and, Democrats like Alyssa Slotkin or Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, and they also won, is because people would turn out, just vote for Trump and leave. And so those people aren't Republicans. They're just Trump voters. And then there's another category of people that I would call not Republicans at all. They're just red pilled. Now, what does red pilled mean? Red pilled is what Elon is, or what RFK Jr. is, or what Tulsi Gabbard is. What Donald Trump has in common with all of those people is that they were all once Democrats not that long ago, basically before the last decade. And they've all become basically, they are living on a backlash against the Democrats, saying that they're woke or they're this or they're that. But all the cranks have moved into the Republican Party, and they're not Republicans by any real stretch of the imagination. They don't believe in limited government, free markets, and American leadership in the world. They believe in owning the libs, and they believe in Donald Trump and a bunch of other sort of crank things. And so I think that we speak for a real category of sort of voters that now we could call red dog Democrats. And I think a lot more of those people should start running in places where Democrats don't normally contest elections in redder places. I think these former Republicans should go run as Democrats, as new kinds of sort of sane Democrats. And so I think the problem is that the people that Donald Trump has been able to bring into his coalition, they're not Republicans. He's just built a very wide coalition that sort of transcends politics, that are made up of a cult and made up of people who wanted lower prices or think he's a businessman or saw him on TV.
You are a former Republican. Are you still a Republican, or can you call
No,
yourself that?
no, I mean, look, I haven't changed much at all in terms of my policy beliefs, but the Republican Party as it's constituted now doesn't reflect my beliefs at all. I believe in free speech. Donald Trump sues pollsters who put out polls that he doesn't like. Now, they talk a big game about free speech, but nobody has been more anti-free speech than Donald Trump. I believe in free markets, free trade. Donald Trump wants to run regressive tariffs. I believe in the rule of law. Donald Trump absolutely doesn't. He believes in breaking the law. So all of the things that ever made me a conservative, one of them being character counts, decency matters. One of the things about Donald Trump, like being a never Trump Republican, or why I never for one second doubted how I felt about him, wasn't a policy issue. Donald Trump's a bad person. And I don't mean a flawed person. Like, we're all flawed. And any political leader is going to be flawed. Donald Trump is like a walking, talking, like, version of malign intent. He doesn't care about anybody. And so when you have a bad person as president, you will get bad outcomes, which is what's happening. And so, I've got nothing in common with today's Republican Party. And frankly, the Democrats are at least going to defend Ukraine. They're going to defend the rule of law. And so I'm an American. Like, people get pretty obsessed with this idea of like, do you still consider yourself a Republican or are you a Democrat? And I'm like, I really love American liberal democracy. I think it's really important. I'd like to defend it. And I'm kind of going to line up with anybody else who's willing to do that.
We're going to be back next week, and be sure to check that one out. John Michaels with Madeline Brand talking about a vigilante nation, the subversion of American democracy. That's next week. Have a good night. Thanks a lot for being with us.